Hello, my name is John Schneider. When I was a kid, I used to visit my Grandma Vi in the Jersey Bayshore area, and I'd take 8mm movies of my family and their friends. In fact, I was the family filmmaker. Today I live here, but traded my film camera for video, and recently shot this tugboat in the Shrewsbury River. Welcome to Jersey Bayshore country. This is where you'll find Raritan Bay, the Atlantic Ocean, as well as Sandy Hook Bay. Where is the Jersey Bayshore? Let's get oriented by starting with the big picture. It's somewhere in here, part of the universe, and definitely part of our world. But it's like no place I've ever experienced. And as soon as we land, I'll show you around. Hello everybody, I'm John Schneider, your host for Jersey Bayshore Country. In this episode, we're going to talk about firefighters of the Jersey Bayshore, my favorite people. We're also going to talk about fire safety, and with me today is one of the fire marshals for one of the lovely towns on the Jersey Bayshore, Keyport, New Jersey. With me is Tony Vecchio. Hi Tony, how are you?
John, how you doing?
What is the responsibility of a fire marshal? Most every town has one. What are the
Most of the towns do have fire marshals. There's some that don't, and they're covered by the Division of Fire Safety. Fire marshal is responsible for enforcing the Uniform Fire Code in the state of New Jersey. Within its borough limits, I'm also in charge of enforcing the local fire prevention ordinance that the borough of Keyport has. Under the state, I'm required to inspect all commercial buildings on at least an annual basis, and all multiple dwellings within the borough for common area inspections.
Recently, I know that there was some smoke that was coming out of one of the walls in the area, and I happened to be there to catch a little of it on video. What was that about, generally? What happened there?
There was construction going on in the home where walls were gutted to the outside walls. New electric was installed, and that work was all done without any construction permits.
Oh boy. Which
creates an issue. The homeowner was under the impression that the contractor got permits, which did not happen. So we had to bring the homeowner in the following day along with the contractor. Contractor was fined for that, and then permits were then issued, and his work was then all re-inspected.
So what causes some of the fires? Let's go through some of them. We talked about smoking cigarettes. What happens with the smoking cigarettes thing?
Discarded cigarettes, people actually believe they put them out in an ashtray, and they really didn't. They're dropped often. Ashtrays are dumped into garbage cans at the end of the night, and they may not be completely out. A lot of people go outside now on their porches and smoke because of young children. They don't want to smoke secondhand smoke inside, so they stand on their back porch and they just throw their cigarettes into the bushes. You know.
And sometimes they'll flick a cigarette, and in the flicking, the little flame part will just go off the cigarette, and you can't find it. It's like being in a car and smoking, and if the wind, causes the little lit part to fly off into the back seat, that's not good.
And cigarettes can smolder for up to 3 hours.
No kidding.
Yes, so you got to be careful. On any type of breezy day with low humidity, it's a very dangerous time to be throwing cigarettes out windows of cars, passing, or out onto your front lawn, or into your bushes if you're smoking outside. But smoking is still one of the number one problems that we're having, throughout New Jersey and the United States.
Wow. And candles. I'll admit that I'll light a candle, and then I'll go to bed, forget about it, or I'll go out and forget about it. What do you say about candles?
I love candles that float in water. So if you can get a candle that float in water, it would be ideal. A lot of our candles are made from overseas. The glass that these candles are made in is substandard, which means that if you let a candle burn for much of the day, that glass will crack. When it cracks, the molten wax runs down, the fire begins to spread. There are some companies out there, some American-made companies, that are still making good glass vases for that type of long-duration burn. But people like candles, and they put them all throughout the house, and you have to remember where you put them and make sure that you blow them out at the end of the night. They're usually one in every bathroom, and especially if you're having company over. You may have one in the living room, you may have one in the kitchen. So those have to be attended to all the time. And they have to be in an open area where they can be seen and not underneath curtains, lampshades, arrangements on tables, things like that.
And if you're going to light a candle and you're going to be moving around the house, at least put it in something that's a bowl or a larger plate. So if it does fall or the wax does drip, it's not dripping off and getting into the furniture or your carpet. What about unattended cooking? You and I have talked about this before. What's up with that?
Unattended cooking is something that happens to just about everybody sometime in their life.
Yeah.
In here in Keyport, we have 3 high-rises, 2 12-story and a 10-story high-rise with over 750 apartments, mostly filled with seniors.
Wow.
And they're a little forgetful at times, but so is the general public at large. You come home late at night from either working late or a night out, and you want to throw something on the stove, a hot cup of tea, or you want to put some soup on or something, and we forget about it, and we lay down and we go to sleep, and the next thing you know, your house is filling up with smoke, your smoke alarms are going off. It can be caught quickly, and the fire department can come and just ventilate the smoke from your house, and other times your kitchen cabinets could start burning and have a bigger problem.
So this is if you have a frying pan or a pot or just about anything, I guess, and you're cooking something and you get a phone call and you run off to get the phone call. I've done this myself, and I totally forgot that I was cooking something, yes. And then I smell it. Oh my gosh! And the flames can literally get out of the pan. And I've done that with the oven too, where I've baked something in the oven, taken it out, but forgot to turn off the oven, and woke up the next day and it was still on. That's yes. Dangerous too, isn't it?
It is. And if you're worried about that, just call the fire department. Okay. It may not be a full department response, but somebody should come take a look at it. We all carry thermal imaging cameras, so it's something that we could look real quick to make sure that the heat from that oven did not expand outside of it.
Now, what else can go wrong? What are some other causes of fires that we could prevent?
Right now, we're getting into the holiday season, and all of our heating devices have been off for the summer.
Oh yeah.
So all summer long, we stored everything up against those heating devices, and now they're being kicked down because of the cold weather. So they should be serviced. All of your heating appliances should be serviced right now. The proximity to a furnace, a water heater should be 36 inches from anything that's combustible. So you want to clear that area away. Fireplaces are now going to be started up because they weren't burned all summer. So you should have your chimneys cleaned on a regular basis so that the soot doesn't build up in the chimney. You need to burn good hard oak or hard wood, and you don't want to burn the more sappier type woods that can cause you some problems. If you're going to use them, you need to have a screen that's kept in front of them so sparks don't pop out onto your rug or floor or whatever. And your other logs or other the starting equipment needs to be kept far and away from them.
And you should never leave a fireplace unattended.
No, absolutely not. But you should really be watching that all the way through.
So if you've got a nice fire and you're really tired and you want to go to bed, but there's still a little glow in the logs, what do? You
can do several different things. There are fire buckets that you can shovel out whatever you got, bring it outside, and just leave it outside in that pot and container, or pour some water in it and just put it out for the night.
And there's a gas fireplace. Can you talk about those?
Gas units are pretty safe to operate. They have gas shutoffs within close proximity of the unit, so if something goes wrong. They are hot just like any other unit, so you have to keep your distance from them.
Right.
And especially watch children as well. The glass in most of them gets very hot. So you have to be careful with that as well.
And what about outside in the fall and in the spring? People bring out their chimeneas and their fire pits, and some of them are portable fire pits. And there are dead leaves everywhere. What are the rules for having an outside fire pit? And talk about the fire safety aspect of that.
The Uniform Fire Code doesn't address residential homes, single-family homes. It only addresses multifamilies that non-owner occupied people are in. The code for those type of placements of fire pits is 15 feet from a structure. So you want to keep that fire pit 15 feet away. You want to have a spark arrestor over it. Okay? So now, if you have a pit or if you have a chimney, most of them all come with the screens. Then there's spark arresters so that sparks don't fly up and out and onto your dry leaves.
But those chimeneas, some of them have an open chimney, and sometimes you can put so much stuff in that chimenea that you'll see glowing embers floating up near the trees, and that's probably
the spark arrestor is then missing, and that needs to be put back in because that's the idea.
That's a good idea.
Okay. As far as the what you can burn in those, you should be burning wood. You shouldn't be burning construction debris. You shouldn't be burning the branches and the leaves or garbage. It's just strictly wood. It's also a nuisance, and people don't understand that you can have a fire pit in your backyard and you can burn wood in that fire pit. But if your smoke goes into your neighbor's window and your neighbor doesn't want to smell it, they're going to complain about it and it needs to be shut down. So that's a nuisance that you have to be aware of your neighbors. It's great that you're feeling the heat, but your neighbor doesn't want to smell your smoke either.
Sure. And what about the holidays and just general, having the Christmas tree lights and that sort of thing? It may seem like common sense, but what do you say about the Christmas tree lights?
Yeah, well, even Christmas lights outside. People run string after string after string after string, and it tells you right in a box that you can't put no more than 2 or 3 strings together before you have a problem. And then you'll see people connect 4 or 5, 6 of them. Those connections that are made need to be taped and sealed so water doesn't get inside them, which people don't do, which is a problem. It's the same thing wrapping them around your Christmas tree. If you put 5 or 6 or 7 strands on one continuous loop, you're going to have an issue.
But people still use some of these space heaters, and some of these space heaters, at least the old ones, when they fell over, they'd still go, and they could burn up a carpet or wood or a wall. Today they can't. Some of the newer ones, if they fall over, they turn off.
They shut off.
But some people may still have these old space heaters. They're also a cause of fires, aren't they?
They are, and then the colder the weather gets, the more you see crazier things. Ovens, doors will be left open and turned on as a source of heat. They're not designed for a 24-hour type operation. It's a limited time to operate that oven to cook something and then shut it down. So running it for a 24-hour period, 48-hour period, they're not what they're designed for and could fail. Space heaters, yes. I mean, people are using them in bedrooms, living rooms, wherever. When it's cold, you're wrapping yourself up, so you've got multiple blankets and things like that. And we all know when we sleep, we never stay still, and blankets are flying all over the place. So it's important that those are kept far and away from anything that's combustible that will burn. If they're older, they need to be replaced with something newer.
What are some of the common electrical fires, besides the Christmas lights and the lights outside? What are some household wiring kinds of fires that you encounter?
Most of the time you find overloaded outlets, or you find extension cords that run from point A to point B. They may run under carpeting. They may be found under couches and things like that. And not realizing it, you may pinch one of those cords, restrict the current running through them, and heat will build up in that restriction and have a short. There are power strips out there that are a little bit more expensive. They're made of metal. They're designed to take a greater heat load. They're probably about $20, $25 compared to the $3 or $4 one that you may buy. And so it's important to invest in a little bit more than that. Everyone in the area has a computer of some sort, a computer, a screen, a printer. Everyone has chargers for you name it. It's charging. So to overload an outlet with all those things, people have to understand that a plugged-in charger, even not connected to a unit, is on.
Yeah.
It's still warm. You can feel it all the time.
Yeah.
So it's still generating heat. So
Sure.
those are things that you need to be aware of.
And what is the difference, and I know you're not an electrician per se, but the difference between having two prongs in your electrical outlet, which to me signifies an older wiring system and an older house, and three prongs? Is it, from a fire safety standpoint, is it dangerous just to have two prongs, and especially if you use a two-prong adapter to go to three?
Yes and no. It all depends on what's actually energizing that particular outlet. Typically, when you see the two-prong, it's missing a ground wire. So the ground going back, it's not a grounded unit. So you have yourself a small issue there. The outlet may be a perfectly good outlet and may be able to provide power to that three-prong outlet because everything made today is grounded. And you want it to be grounded. But in certain situations, you may still be able to use them. Especially in a town like Keyport that has a housing stock that's at that 100-year mark, there are still several homes that don't have upgraded electrical systems and are operating with them.
Now, this is near and dear to both our hearts because, one, you try to prevent unauthorized electrical work in someone's home, and all of us like to think we can change an outlet or change a switch. When do we need a permit to do any electrical work, even simple things like replacing an outlet? Technically, when do we need to get a permit?
If you're not familiar with electricity, it's always good to reach out to somebody else who knows. Typically, changing out a bad outlet, you don't need a permit for. That's minor maintenance. But when you're changing or you're upgrading, you're adding to the circuit, you're going to add another outlet, you really want to have a licensed guy do that work. It's important that when you expand your system, that an electrician looks at that particular circuit to make sure that you can add one more outlet to it. Most of these outlets are on 15 amp breakers, which means you can only probably put 6 outlets, 7 outlets on an individual circuit. So adding a 7th, 8th, or 9th may be an issue. So it's important to reach out to an electrician if you're not familiar with it.
What is the process for getting the permit for electrical work? Is it complicated? Is it complicated so most people don't bother? What's the process for getting a permit?
The process is very simple. Whether you walk in as a homeowner, which you can do your own work as a homeowner on your home, the whole idea is that a licensed electrical subcode guy will come out and look at your work and approve it so that you know you've done it right. But the process is simple. You walk into the construction office, you ask for an electrical permit, they ask you what type of work you're doing. You may need additional permits with that. If you're adding in an electrical circuit that also is going to have fire alarms in it, then the fire subcode official is going to want to look at your plans as well to make sure that those smoke detectors are being placed in the right location. And the electrician is going to look at it that it's wired correctly.
You know, I remember long ago you could call the fire department and ask them to come over to your home to take a look around and help you decide whether your home is safe from potential fires. Does anybody do that at all?
Yes, they do actually.
Really?
Yes, and those calls come to my office. The fire marshal, either myself or one of my inspectors will do that inspection. One of the best things about Keyport is that I also, and my office also does the CO inspections for rentals and for sales of home. So there's a fire guy doing those inspections. So we're fire-minded, so we're looking at a lot more than an actual construction. Not saying that a construction guy doesn't, but being in the fire service, knowing where we're having our issues, we're looking at stuff a little bit better. So we have done that over years. We've gone to people's homes. We've told them where upgrades need to be done, especially like the power strips. You see them all the time, so it's an easy thing to say to get rid of that power strip and put in a nicer one, something that's built for that type of use, or call an electrician and have them add an outlet there. So I encourage people to call. We'll be more than happy to come out. It's free. We're here to serve.
Right. What is the number one sort of fire prevention tool that we can all use?
Smoke detectors, without question. The best smoke detector is a working smoke detector, and they need to be installed properly. You can have hardwired smoke detectors, and every house now built after 1977 requires hardwired smoke detectors in them. Existing homes, which Keyport has, a lot of existing homes, only required to have a battery-operated smoke detector within 10 feet of every bedroom and one on every floor, along with a carbon monoxide within 10 feet of a bedroom and on a floor that just has sleeping purposes. So those smoke detectors need to be checked regularly, just like any other appliance in your home. Batteries should be changed every 6 months. When we change the clocks, we change the batteries. Yes, if you have young children, you should have one in every bedroom.
I have a confession to make. I, at one time, not here, but I had a smoke detector, and it wasn't near the kitchen at all, but every time I cooked something, the smoke detector would go off. So I, for a while, just disconnected it. And sometimes I'd disconnect it while I cooked, and sometimes I forgot that I disconnected it. So that's a no-no, right?
It is, and most people forget. I mean, there's other ways of clearing a smoke detector just by waving a towel or a magazine over it just to clear it right away. But it also may mean that detector is going bad or it's too sensitive. So replacing it. Manufacturers only warranty their stuff up to 10 years. So if you have a smoke detector that's over 10 years old, battery operated, or hardwired, you should replace them.
I remember being so angry with smoke detectors, I wanted to hit it with a hammer just to get it to stop, because so it's really important to get the latest and greatest. And you're saying here in Keyport, at least, you don't necessarily need to have it hardwired, but wherever you live, you ought to check the regulations to find out if you do need to have it hardwired. Right?
Sure, yeah, and if you're doing a major upgrade to your home, the code, the Uniform Construction Code, will make you upgrade that as well to a hardwired system.
Now, what about, I'm asleep at night and I've got these smoke detectors all over the house. I've even got them in the basement. And suddenly it's smoking in the basement and I'm sound asleep. That's not going to do me much good. What do you suggest I do?
As long as the smoke detectors are activating, you should hear it. Smoke is going to rise to the next level as well. You want to be able to have two ways out. So if the first way out down your front steps to your front door is blocked by smoke, that you have a second way out, whether it's out of a second floor window, a first floor window, a back porch, a side porch, roof, or you may have safety chains that you can drop out a window and climb down. The most important thing is they'll have a working smoke detector on each level.
When do you call the fire department?
Immediately.
Well, I mean, it's just a little bit of smoke.
Yeah, it's immediate, because you don't know where that smoke came from, how long that smoke's been moving through the house. Most people don't realize that behind every sheetrock wall, there are void spaces. And in those void spaces, smoke and fire travel, and they travel very quickly. And you may only be seeing it puffing out of a wall, and it's been burning in there for 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, but see, I think there are a lot of people that just don't want to bother you guys. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, there's a little smoke, and there's a fire. I'll try to put it out myself, and then one thing leads to another. But you want to be called, you want to be woken up, and you want to come to the house, and you're not going to be angry with me, are you?
Absolutely not, no. The other outcome is if you don't call, you may be dead in the morning.
And my neighbor's house may burn down, so that's not a good thing.
And it's not. No, absolutely not.
Any other fire prevention tips, Tony, in general that you could provide here today for our viewers?
I think be aware of your environment, of where you're at. Whether you're at home, just look to see, whether there are electrical issues, whether there are any fire issues that jump out to you. Call and ask somebody from my office to come over.
Well, I appreciate that.
And when you're out, always look for a way out. You go out to eat in a restaurant or whatever, look for the exit signs to keep aware of where the closest exit is to you. We are in a time in our country that everyone is on alert for one reason or another, and it's important that if something does go wrong, that you know your exits, you know where you are, and you know how to get out.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing your knowledge and experience and giving us a few tips. Appreciate it.
And thank you very much, John.
Well, that about does it for this episode of Jersey Bayshore Country. I hope that you will take this stuff to heart. A lot of us think, we know all about first aid and fire prevention. We've lived this long. We're probably going to live a few more years. But please do take it to heart and just look around. And if you've got candles or food and you're running out the door or you're on the phone, just do a double check and do what we call an idiot check before you leave to make sure that everything is okay. Anyway, I enjoyed this program. I enjoy talking to you and meeting you. And as always, if you see me out there running around with a camera or flying a drone or even having lunch, I want you to stop, tap me on the shoulder and say hello, because nothing is more important than meeting you. Goodbye, everybody.
Merry Christmas from the Comm Center.